Okay, council members and participants, we are now live.
Good afternoon, everyone. Today is Wednesday, October 11th of 2023. I understand that the state law currently requires that the following announcement be made at the beginning of every remote public hearing as follows. Due to the current public health emergency, city council committees are currently meeting remotely. We are using Microsoft Teams to make these remote hearings possible. Instructions for how the public may view and offer public testimony at public hearings of council committees are included in the public hearing notices that are published in the Daily News, Enquirer, and Legal Intelligencer prior to the hearings and can also be found on philcouncil.com. Will the clerk please call the roll to take attendance? Members that are in attendance will please indicate that they are present when their names are called. Also, please say a few brief words when responding so that your image will be displayed on screen when you speak. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Mark Squilla.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. I'm present.
Councilmember Curtis Jones Jr.
Good afternoon, Chairman. Good afternoon, colleagues. I am present.
Councilmember Kendra Brooks.
Good afternoon, Chairman and colleagues. I'm present.
Councilmember Sharon Vaughn.
Good afternoon, Chairman and colleagues. Good morning or afternoon.
And Councilmember Anthony Phillips.
Council, good afternoon, viewing public. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and colleagues. I'm present.
Thank you. A quorum of the committee is present, and this hearing is now called to order. This is the public hearing of the Committee on Transportation and Public Utilities regarding Resolution 230533. Will the clerk please read the title of the resolution?
Resolution 230533, a resolution authorizing the Committee on Transportation and Public Utilities to hold public hearings to examine the impacts of and funding alternatives for an extension of the existing Broad Street subway line into the underserved Northeast along the Roosevelt Boulevard.
Before we begin to hear testimony from the witnesses we have for today, everyone who has been invited to the meeting to testify should be aware that this public hearing is being recorded. Because the hearing is public, participants and viewers have no reasonable expectation of privacy. By continuing to be in the meeting, you are consenting to being recorded. Additionally, prior to recognizing members for the questions or comments they have for witnesses, I will note for the record at this time that they will use the chat feature available in Microsoft Teams to allow members to signify that they wish to be recognized. In order to comply with the Sunshine Act, the chat feature must only be used for this purpose. At this time, I want to acknowledge Councilmember Mark Driscoll for remarks as the lead sponsor of the bill.
Thank you, members of the committee, and thank you, Chairman Johnson, for convening this meeting. You know, this project is a referendum on our city and on our Commonwealth. Is this a place that cowers in the face of challenging opportunities, or is this a place that sees the future coming and charges at it at full speed? As anyone who has come to my office would know, I greatly admire President John F. Kennedy. Just over 61 years ago, JFK proclaimed, "We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard." For many, especially our city's most vulnerable, going to and from the Northeast is just as hard as it is going to the moon. And I challenge this council, this administration, and the next, our state and federal partners, PennDOT, SEPTA, to shoot for the moon. I challenge us to lift thousands out of a transit desert. I challenge us to connect nearly 500,000 people to our region's economic and job core. I challenge us to address the housing supply crisis by building thousands of units directly along this new rapid transit corridor for the working class residents of our city. I challenge us to directly create thousands of family-sustaining union jobs and induce a quarter century of private sector investment worth billions of dollars. We choose to build this subway in this decade and uplift hundreds of thousands of our neighbors, not because it is easy, but because it is hard. Because our city and its residents deserve world-class infrastructure. Because we believe and know that this is a world-class city. The days of hand-wringing and pessimistic perspectives are behind us. Our city must chart a new path forward. No project will shift our paradigm more than the Roosevelt Boulevard subway. If this project is to happen, all stakeholders must come together and shoot for the moon because this train is leaving the station. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any other comments from members of the committee? I just want to say, Councilman Curtis Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to applaud Member Driscoll. As we look to the future of this city, one of the things over time I've noticed is that we tend to think small. This project is thinking big, and the connectivity that will come from it will shape how workers move back and forth, major portion of Philadelphia. So I just wanted to say that you challenged City Council, we accept.
Thank you, Councilman Jones. Any other comments from members of the committee? I just want to take a moment also to acknowledge the inspiring and most importantly, empowering remarks from Councilman Driscoll. When we talk about equity when it comes to transportation, this is a project that will support everyone, regardless of their neighborhood, checkbook, pocketbook, and or their zip code. This is an opportunity for us to come together as a city and make sure there's equitable resources and support as relates to transportation for all members and residents and citizens here in this great city of Philadelphia. So thank you for stepping up and making sure your residents and your constituents in Northeast Philadelphia issues and priorities are heard loud and clear when it comes to building a new transportation system along the Roosevelt Boulevard to the northeast. So thank you very much, my friend, and you keep up the good work.
Thank you,
With
Mr.
that
Chairman.
being said, will the clerk please call the first panel?
First to testify, we have Jennifer Doherty.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon,
Councilman,
Jennifer. Just state
thank
your
you.
name for the record and please begin.
Good afternoon, Councilman Johnson, Councilman Driscoll, and members of the Committee on Transportation and Public Utilities. My name is Jennifer Doherty, and I'm the Manager of Long Range Planning at SEPTA. SEPTA service is the backbone of mobility, economic growth, safety, and transit-oriented community development in southeastern Pennsylvania. And I appreciate the opportunity to speak about the future of transit and the impacts and alternatives related to extending the Broad Street line along Roosevelt Boulevard. SEPTA is thankful for City Council's leadership and funding support for our highest priority initiatives, including your continued advocacy surrounding the pending $240 million fiscal cliff and local funding options needed to support large-scale projects of regional significance, such as those proposed for the Roosevelt Boulevard. SEPTA Board Chairman Pat Dion and CEO Leslie Richards are grateful for your proactive engagement with the General Assembly and the Governor. More than ever, the health and prosperity of our region are tied to the strength and success of SEPTA. As SEPTA continues working to rebuild ridership coming out of the pandemic, we welcome any opportunity to advance initiatives that will put more people on SEPTA and explore opportunities to expand service where practical. This hearing is an important next step in the initial assessment of the Broad Street line extension concept, and SEPTA looks forward to being an integral partner in productive analysis of transport options and working with stakeholders to advance solutions. Roosevelt Boulevard is a critical transit corridor today. carrying multiple SEPTA bus routes and serving thousands of customers. SEPTA is proud to be an original stakeholder and funder of the Roosevelt Boulevard Route for Change plan, and SEPTA is excited to partner with PennDOT, the City of Philadelphia, Bucks County, and other key stakeholders on planning, design, and implementation of improvement projects along the boulevard. The Route for Change initiative was awarded $78 million in federal funding that will enable a series of first-of-its-kind interventions in Philadelphia that will strengthen transit along the boulevard, including establishment of business access or transit BAT lanes, simplified and safer intersections, and transit priority. These improvements will enhance SEPTA investments such as Boulevard Direct Bus Service, improved bus stop, construction within Transportation Center. More ambitious plans to transform Roosevelt Boulevard are part of the current PennDOT Route for Change alternative refinement and short-term improvement projects. I see that there's a question.
I was going to wait, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. All
Yes,
right.
when you finish your testimony, Jennifer,
Yes.
Councilman Curtis Jones.
Thank you. And again, with all of this infrastructure money coming from the federal government, the idea of thinking big is truly appropriate. Couple of questions. If we do this route, how many stops are you proposing?
Would you like for me to finish my testimony and then I can begin to answer questions? Or
Oh, yes, I asked you, did you finish? I didn't know, I thought you said.
oh,
yes.
I'm sorry.
Okay,
I
please finish your testimony.
This 2040 alternatives process provides a platform for how the boulevard can be reimagined by knitting communities together, providing dedicated space for transit, and improving safety and mobility for everyone. We understand that PennDOT is providing a status update to the committee that will include an overview and key milestones, dates, and they are working to finalize a date and location for the next public meeting as a part of their study. SEPTA is providing data, guidance, staffing, and technical assistance on the project, and we are excited to see what the information and analysis reveal. It's heartening to see the enthusiasm for improved transit on Roosevelt Boulevard and the renewed interest in a Broad Street line extension, but funding challenges loom large over every service and planning decision SEPTA considers, including large-scale projects such as those proposed for Roosevelt Boulevard. SEPTA is in the final year of its one-time federal COVID relief funding, and the authority is preparing for an operating fiscal cliff that could drastically limit the service SEPTA is able to provide. Next July, SEPTA faces annual recurring budget deficits of more than $240 million that will require some combination of severe service cuts, significant fare increases, and deferred state of good repair projects, unless sustainable operating funding can be secured to maintain SEPTA's vital service. Similarly, recent experience highlights how SEPTA's capital budget, as currently constituted and funded, does not have the flexibility to support major expansion or capacity enhancement projects, while also maintaining our vehicle and infrastructure state of good repair commitments. SEPTA's strategic plan identified a program of initiatives and projects of regional significance that align with our vision for an intuitive, seamless transit network. SEPTA is currently advancing an array of initiatives, including trolley modernization, bus revolution, and reimagining regional rail. Along with efforts to address a $5.1 billion vehicle and infrastructure state of good repair backlog, fulfill our commitment to make the Broad Street and Market Frankfurt lines fully accessible, and advance our zero-emission bus program, the bulk of SEPTA's capital program is dedicated to imperatives, not choices. With a capital budget that is already the lowest among peer agencies, SEPTA must be careful to ensure that new worthwhile projects do not supplant current initiatives that are integral to SEPTA's long-range plan and the city's transit plan. Fully realizing Route for Change, including whatever transit mode is chosen as a part of the selected alternative, like a subway, will take more than a one-time funding. As a city and region, we must make significant progress on funding now to ensure that a project like an extension of the Broad Street line has local and state funding to compete for critical federal investment. SEPTA is grateful to Representatives Hohenstein and Waxman for introducing local funding options legislation, and Transportation Committee Chairman Nielsen for his leadership. And SEPTA is working to build support for this critical funding tool. Thank you for holding this hearing and providing a venue for our partners and our stakeholders to share their knowledge and enthusiasm for transit. I look forward to answering your questions and hearing from the other panelists. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. I have a question on the lines of what Councilman Curtis Jones asked regarding the costs, and you gave a very, very detailed summary of some of the fiscal challenges that you are facing right now, and kind of maintain your current capital projects. What is the dollar amount that if the legislation that passes on the state level, which I'm pretty confident that it will, under the leadership of Chairman Nielsen, also working in partnership with the Philadelphia delegation chair, Morgan Cephas, and the chairperson of appropriations, who I spoke to directly about this issue. Actually, I spoke to all three of them about this issue. What's the actual dollar amount that the legislation would produce for SEPTA as we embark upon this upcoming fiscal cliff?
Approximately $190 million for our operating fiscal cliff. So our need is $240 million. This legislation as proposed is $190 million.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other questions or comments from members of the committee?
I would like, sorry, I just wanted to
Mr.
answer
Chairman.
Councilman Jones's question from earlier.
Yeah,
My
Councilman
apologies.
Jones. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Councilman Jones, you want to reiterate your question?
Yes, please. Based on the current configuration of that subway, and I'm assuming it's going to go at least to Bucks County, how many stops would be proposed in that continued construction?
Based upon the Route for Change work that we collaborated with previously, we were looking at 12 stations over 12 miles, and that includes stations in Bucks County.
What are the estimated amounts of ridership that could be picked up, including that route?
That's a great question. That's something that we really working with PennDOT currently on in terms of modeling with the alternative study, in terms of what we think the overall ridership could be.
Have there been cost comparisons to look at light rail versus the subway continued construction?
No, that is also part of the current study with PennDOT. Don't have those numbers quite yet.
Last question. What do you think the impact on congestion on the boulevard would be by the completion of this subway?
Another excellent question. I think this is one of the things that we worked really closely with PennDOT and the city of Philadelphia and Bucks County with previously, is that whatever intervention or whatever mode gets chosen or selected for Roosevelt Boulevard in terms of public transportation, there'd be a major reconfiguration of Roosevelt Boulevard in terms of how the lanes would work, how much carrying capacity there would be for personal vehicles and trucks and And those things need to be weighed against each other. I think the bigger the intervention is in terms of mass transit, how much dedicated right-of-way we're given, the frequency of service and the carrying capacity of that service all impacts how many people we can take on board mass transit and really do a mode shift from people needing to rely upon a personal vehicle to get around. So that is definitely something that we're going to be working closely with PennDOT on modeling. It could be a very significant impact, but it is something we need to work closely with and see what people are comfortable with in terms of really reimagining Roosevelt Boulevard in terms of how many lanes, how they're configured, and what mode gets chosen.
And finally, what I would ask is to look at how the impact of that might deal with the dangerous roadway that we face. It's one of the most dangerous roads in the city of Philadelphia. So understanding how by adding the subway cars, how that might reduce some of the hazards riding up and down Roosevelt Boulevard. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. Any other questions or comments from members of the committee? Hearing none, will the clerk please call the next panel, please?
Next to speak, we have State Senator Sharif Street.
Good afternoon. How are you?
I'm well, Councilman, members. Appreciate the opportunity to present. How are you all doing today?
We're doing fantastic. If you could just state your name for the record, and you can begin your testimony.
So I'm State Senator Sharif Street, Sharif, S-H-A-R-I-F, as in Frank, Street, S-T-R-E-E-T. I represent the 3rd Senatorial District in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, which begins in the heart of North Philadelphia and runs up to the county line along Broad Street. And my district runs east, which would include significant portions of the Roosevelt Boulevard and Broad Street. And the reason that's particularly significant for me is much of the construction, at least the portion from Broad Street, probably all the way out to about 8th Street along the boulevard, would be in my district. And then I represent at least one side of all of the North Broad corridor where Broad Street Sub would run from Fern Rock all the way down to Spring Garden Street Station. Look, I think this is a great idea for a host of reasons. First and foremost, it would improve it'll improve safety and functionality of our mass transit system, and by allowing people to take the subway or light rail. And by the way, I'm agnostic on the issue of whether it's light rail or subway cars, but do think rail service is needed. It would allow folks to take rail service to Broad Street and then connect at Broad Street and get into Center City. Doing that would significantly reduce, would have the potential to significantly reduce the number of cars coming off the boulevard on the North Broad Street, where if anyone drives there, there's the congestion builds up right there, and usually during rush hour can go from Hunting Park all the way down to City Hall at some points, at least down to Vine Street. And so I think that is a positive. Reducing that congestion would reduce the amount of time that cars are idling, which would improve efficiencies for everyone, would also make even those cars that are still driving, if they can get to their destination faster with less idling, it would reduce the carbon footprint of those cars traveling. And it would improve the quality of life people because it would reduce their commute, whether you're on the rail or on the car. Additionally, we have to look at the possibility there will be people doing what we often call reverse commuting, which are people who live in North Philadelphia and in other parts of the city where they're particularly low income that might want to go to retail jobs out in Bucks County or the greater Northeast. And right now, if you want to get a job, if you live in North Philadelphia or West Philadelphia even, or South Philadelphia, and you want to get to the greater Northeast, and if you're not traveling by car, it's an inordinate amount of time to get to the Neshaminy Mall or the Franklin, or well, I guess we call it Philadelphia Mills Mall, or any of those places where there are lots of retail jobs. Those retail jobs could be really important to low-income families and could change life, but may not be practical if you have a commute that could be in excess of an hour because you don't have access to a car. And I think my last studies I saw, roughly 35% of the population of Philadelphia are without vehicles. Many of those people living in row houses along Broad Street, where it is ordinarily unnecessary. So I think it would therefore improve the economies of both Philadelphia and Bucks County. Finally, it would help move us into a more modern era, and it can continue to expand what is really one of the finest systems for rail. And I will say, look, there's been a lot of talk about how we improve transportation, how we get people out of cars, and without casting shade on people who want to ride bicycles, and I love riding bikes as a recreational matter. I think that the culture of Philadelphians is much more suited to get masses of people to ride rail than it is to use bikes for transportation. And so I think making this kind of investment would get people off and would achieve goals that we've often talked about in terms of getting people off of out of cars and reducing our carbon footprint. It would improve the ability for people who are traveling from suburban areas or from far out parts of the city in the Northeast to Center City, who choose to continue to use cars because there'd be less congestion on the road. And it would allow people who might want to commute the other way, who are low income, who would more likely be seeking retail jobs out in the far Northeast or in Lower Buck. For all those reasons, I think this makes a lot of sense. And then finally, it is not lost upon me that there will be a significant number of construction jobs involved in this. And while that's not why we do this, these public works projects invariably have a positive impact on the economy. Construction workers are going to eat at restaurants. They're going to come from regular families, and they will make a significant contribution. So I will say that I would support allocations from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. I'd be willing to advocate to both Senate and House leadership as well as the governor to have the Commonwealth play a role in working with the city to secure funding for this project. I want to thank Councilman Driscoll for his leadership in this regard.
Thank you very much, Senator. Before I open it up to members of the committee, I have a question. For this upcoming budget, what's the budget surplus that's projected?
Current budget surplus is projected at $8 billion in the Commonwealth, with $6 billion in the rainy day fund, for a total of roughly $14 billion in unallocated funds. At least $3 billion of that is structural, meaning that we expect that to be recurring revenues for multiple cycles. So surplus is likely to grow unless we increase our spend.
Good. I just wanted to get an idea. The reason why I asked the question, Jennifer Dockery talked about, I think she said the legislation that's floating right now, if passed, would produce $190 million, and their overall budget is $200+ million. And so I just wanted to get an idea, that number in the grand scheme of the overall budget that's on the state level that could be supportive of some of the efforts as we run out of the support that they have.
Yeah, Councilman, to that point, if I can add, look, there was a bill that came out of the House already, a tax code bill that I think increased dedicated funding for mass transit by about 40%. That bill successfully came out of the Senate Appropriations Committee, and I anticipate that those provisions will be enacted in the law.
Good. Thank you very much, Senator. Any questions, comments from members of the committee? Okay, hearing none. As always, good to see you, Senator Sharif Street.
Good to see you, Councilman.
You too. Will the clerk please call the next panel, please?
Next to speak, we have Representative Joe Hohenstein. Representative Jared Solomon, Representative Patrick Gallagher, Representative Anthony Bellman, Representative Ben Waxman, and Representative Tariq Khan.
Thank you. I'm going to start with my representative, part of the 2nd Councilmanic District. Ben Waxman, can you start us off? But welcome to the council hearing, my state colleagues on the state level. Good to see everybody. Ben, just state your name for the record and please begin your testimony.
Yes, thank you so much, Councilman, and I am proud that my councilman is the one who, is leading this hearing. We get excellent representation in our district at the council level. It is great to be here with so many, advocates as well as elected officials who have been really working on this issue for a long time. There are others on this call who have been working longer than me, and so I'll turn it over to them in a moment. But I would say the number one thing for me as a state representative who represents primarily downtown, as well as communities that are directly adjacent to downtown or in Center City, we don't just see this as a subway line that will help those in the Northeast. We see it very much as part of Center City's recovery and coming back from COVID, because we believe it will make it much easier for people from the Northeast all the way to Bucks County to come into Center City and use our retail outlets, restaurants, all of those things. So this is, and the same in terms of Center City residents taking advantage of all the things that are available in the Northeast, including restaurants and cultural institutions that you really can't find in Center City. So this is something that I really strongly believe will help everyone. It will help every part of Philadelphia that is touched by this. It will benefit every neighborhood. That includes Center City and every other neighborhood that will be touched by this project. And so with that, I will turn it back to you, Councilman, for my colleagues.
Thank you very much. Representative Jared Solomon, please state your name for the record. Begin your testimony, please.
How you doing, Chairman? Jared Solomon, Jared Solomon, 202nd Legislative District. It's good to be with you, Chair, and good to be with you, council members. So this is an opportunity, and I appreciate Councilman Driscoll's leadership on this issue. This is an opportunity for us in Philadelphia to do something big, bold, and transformational. Big, bold, and transformational, those are not words just reserved for New York and LA and other cities. Those are words that we can embrace. And when you think of big, bold, and transformational, the last time that the type of transformational project has happened in Northeast Philadelphia is over 5 decades. We had the Roosevelt Boulevard in 1902. We had the Tacony Palmyra Bridge in 1929. And the Market Frankfurt L was the last one, and that was in 1968. We can change that by embracing this effort. And as the councilman pointed out, and others have pointed out, this would mean union jobs for a generation, a positive environmental impact that we have never seen before in our city, a public works project up and down the boulevard from the Bucks County line all the way into Center City that we have never seen, and inclusive development that uplifts people moves people from poverty to middle income jobs that would be transformational for many in our region. It's also an opportunity for us to all work together, local, state, and federal. When is the last time that we've gotten on a call like this where everyone agrees? I don't think anyone's opposed to this project. So let's all work together and get something big, bold, and transformational done for our city and region. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Little brother, Representative Anthony Bellum, please state your name for the record. Begin your testimony.
Thank you, Chairman. I appreciate the opportunity to come and present to you guys today. My name is Anthony Bellman. I'm the state representative for the 203rd Legislative District, which is Burholme, Longcrest, Lawndale, Oxford Circle, Alany, and Castor Gardens, all in lower northeast Philadelphia. When I'm walking around and I'm talking to my constituents, a lot of people say that the Northeast is disconnected from the rest of the city. And they would love to be able to get from the Northeast to Center City a lot easier, a lot quicker, and a lot cheaper. And I think that what we're talking about here today with the extension of the Broad Street line, all of those things are going to be able to help my constituents. Currently, I sit both on the Commerce Committee and the Transportation Committee in the Pennsylvania House. And the Roosevelt Boulevard subway proposal really stood out to me because of the benefits that it could have for my district and for Northeast Philadelphia. Jared, Rep. Solomon already knows that we have some of the best restaurants in the city. And I think the rest of Philadelphia should find out how great our restaurants actually are. And one way to do that would be to make sure that it's easier to get to our restaurants. Another reason is that the current average commuting time for workers in my district is 38 minutes, and that's 14% above the state average. And the subway would help cut down that commuter time for workers in my district. This project is realistic. I think this project is attainable, but in order for us to make it happen, we really do need all hands on deck. And this is working on the city, state, and the federal level. Ever since I've learned about this project, I've always heard that there's always been sort of an idea, right? This is a 100-year-old idea that has just never happened because the political will for it just hasn't been there. I think the political will for it is there now. I think with the infrastructure dollars from the federal government, we can actually see it come to pass. And I hope that I will do everything in my power from this seat.
Excuse me 1 second.
Right, can you come by tomorrow?
Excuse me, can everybody put their phone or with the computer on mute, please? Thank you. Representative Bellman, please finish your testimony.
No problem. I'll just do everything within my power from the seat in order to make it happen. And thank you, Chairman. Thank you to members of the committee. And thank you to Councilman Driscoll for his leadership on this as well.
Thank you very much, Representative Bellman. And I was just up in the Northeast at a restaurant called Michelangelo's, and the food was great. I do understand that it did take me literally an hour to come from South Philly along 95, like literally an hour to get there, right? And so I believe from a transportation, an equitable transportation standpoint, this would be great for the Northeast. But I do want to attest that the food at Michelangelo's was great. The pizza was outstanding. And I had a real good time. And so I'll be back actually later on this week. So keep up the good work. Next, my good friend Joe Holstein. Go ahead. State your name for the record, please.
Thank you, council member. Yep. Joseph Hohenstein. I'm the state representative for House District 177, and I'm a lifetime SEPTA rider, mostly on the Frankfurt L. And we all know you can't get to heaven from there, but you can get to Frankfurt. I just want to make sure this body understands what we need to do in Harrisburg is to convince Harrisburg that this isn't just good for Philly. It's good for the rest of the state as well. Now, SEPTA does a decent job of presenting what the facts and figures are, the contracts that they have, and the way that a project like this will impact not just Philadelphia and the surrounding collar counties, but also the state as a whole. And I think any message that City Council sends to Harrisburg with a resolution or with an ordinance or whatever it is you guys are going to do, the message to us needs to be, this is going to help the entire Commonwealth, because we know that mass transit does do that. Even if we're only talking about increasing the ability for people to get to work and work in jobs that are family sustaining and create revenue for the state, that revenue goes back to the state. And the tradition is that Philadelphia puts more in tax revenue than it gets back out. and that can be and should be a real important piece of the message. I think one of the other thing a number of my colleagues have already talked about, which is really key, is the unity that we have around these issues. You are talking with no fewer than 6 of us today, I think, or five or six of us today, and that's just the folks who got on this hearing from the House of Representatives. And I know the Senate is really unified with this from our delegation standpoint. And what we need to do, and this I want to make sure there's a distinction. The bill that we passed just last week for the tax code is related to SEPTA's operational funding. We need bills like the one that Rep. Waxman has proposed, that I've proposed. There are a couple of other ideas as well to make sure there's additional local funding for the capital projects that the subway really is sort of, to my way of thinking, the crown jewel of all of the different capital projects that SEPTA is considering. But we need to be able to do that. And in order to do that, having a good, strong backing coming from the city is going to give us that impetus to be able to have our colleagues in Harrisburg both recognize the value of mass transit in Philadelphia for the entire Commonwealth, and also give us the local tools to be able to raise revenue here in Philadelphia and some of the surrounding counties, so that we have the capital funding that will allow SEPTA to take advantage of the federal money as well. And with that, one last thing I just want to note, and I know Rep. Solomon, you didn't mention it, but the semi-quincentennial is coming up, the 250th anniversary of our nation. And Jared, I know, sits on that commission, and that is going to be one of many events that we can showcase what Philadelphia is and about, and we at least should be able to at that point showcase that the subway is coming, even if we don't have it built by then. So thank you for the opportunity to testify, and I thank my former colleague and council member Driscoll for his leadership on the issue, and all of you for taking the reins on this and really getting it moving forward. So thank you.
Thank you, and thank you very much for highlighting the importance of showing the state as a whole, right? I wasn't there when you were there, but I'm a former member, so I get the importance of showing legislators from Allegheny County, right, that this is important. But I also recognize that we put more in the pot, right, as a region than we get back. And so I'm just excited about the leadership that we have up there now to take us to the next level to make sure the city of Philadelphia gets a return on our investment. Thank you very much. Representative Tariq Khan, please just state your name for the record and begin your testimony, my friend.
Thank you. I'm State Representative Tariq Khan. I represent the 194th District in Northwest Philadelphia. That includes East Falls, Manayunk, Roxborough, Chestnut Hill, and Wissahickon. Chair Johnson, thank you so much for convening this meeting. I want to thank Councilmember Driscoll for your leadership on this issue. I want to give a shout out to my Councilmember Curtis Jones, who worked a lot within our community on projects, and he's a great partner. I want to also say hello to the other council members and thank them for their work. And finally, I just want to also thank the community advocates, including the Fifth Square and the Bicycle Coalition, who have been fighting for this and really raising us up. And last but not least, I want to thank my colleagues from Philadelphia on the call, especially our chair of our Veterans Committee, Jared Solomon, who's also my childhood friend from the so I want to start off just by saying that, I grew up in Northeast Philadelphia, and this really would have been a huge benefit, having something like the Roosevelt Boulevard subway. I would have been able to get home a lot earlier in high school from Center City, but I could have transferred from the Broad Street line to a Welsh Grant Boulevard stop. My father was an engineer for the city, and he actually built the airport line that brought people who were commuting from the airport back to Center City so that they could take other transports. Because before, people were having to take taxis all the time, and we don't really have that strong infrastructure. This is right along that line of making sure this world-class city, Philadelphia, has a world-class infrastructure, transit infrastructure. This project, as mentioned, will bring union work to workers across the region. This is going to benefit all of our unions. Every union that I can think of would benefit directly from this, including the participation of the labor for it in creating this line. I think also, which is extremely relevant to Northwest Philadelphia, is that the climate crisis severely impacts Philadelphia and my community. And we need a transit forward policy that reflects the situation that we're in. During Hurricane Ida, the Schuylkill River flooding devastated residents and merchants in East Falls and Manayunk. And we need to make sure we are taking interventions to mitigate our climate crisis. Switching from cars to public transit like the Roosevelt Boulevard subway will reduce CO2 emissions by nearly half. It would also increase worker productivity, making it easier for people like who live in my community to be able to get to work, meaning less time to drive, more time to work and live. I want to also just say about the return on investment to Northwest Philadelphia and to our city. We know that investment in transit can yield about 50,000 jobs per $1 billion invested, and offers anywhere from a 2-to-1 to a 4-to-1 economic return. I finally want to say, as a nurse practitioner, that the health benefits of taking the train will be that public transit brings health benefits along with the economic return. More than 3 times of the people who are, well, let me say it this way: your physical activity is about 3 times more than when you are taking public transit than when you drive. So you're 3 times more active when you are taking public transit to getting your stop and then traveling to your destination than if you're driving in a car. And we know that being active lowers the risk for health disease, diabetes, high pressure, and depression, and reduces stress. I can't talk about unions, by the way, without mentioning the good people from TWU, who will be the ones that are operating this Roosevelt Boulevard subway from TW 234. So this is a win-win-win. This is a win for our residents, it's a win for the economy, and it's a win for our labor and a win for our climate. Thank you so much, Chair Johnson. I appreciate the time to testify.
Thank you very much. Representative Gallagher, thank you for your patience as well. I watched your leadership around the I-95 issue, working with the other elected officials in the area, and just want to say hello and just state your name for the record to begin your testimony.
Thank you, Chairman. I appreciate that. My name is Patrick Gallagher, State Representative from the 173rd Legislative District. I represent Northeast Philadelphia in the areas of Holmesburg, Mayfair, Upper Holmesburg, East Torresdale, Winchester Park. This affects my district hugely because I represent down the boulevard from Cotman Avenue to almost all the way up to Welsh Road. And this would be a game changer for a lot of those people that live on the corridor there. Getting to public transportation from that area sometimes, especially the rails, is especially difficult when they have to take 2 or 3 trains or buses to get to, say, the Frankfurt L or to the rails on the other side of the boulevard. So this would make life a lot easier for my constituents and for the area. And I'm going to, echo the same sentiments of my colleagues in both the House and the Senate, that this is an absolute game changer for southeastern Pennsylvania, for Northeast Philadelphia and the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, for all the reasons stated before: economics, for jobs, for labor, there's not a box that's not being checked in this program. And another thing is, this is also a great idea because a lot of my constituents in my community are row homes with not access to cars. So this makes it a lot easier to get access to all the great things that come with living in the city of Philadelphia. It's not just a one-way transit action here. You have Northeast residents looking to go down to Center City, and same thing with Center City residents looking to come up to the Northeast to celebrate what we have to offer up here and for us to experience what Center City has to offer for us down there. So it's not a hugely one-sided thing here. I think it's going to benefit everywhere and everybody in the city of Philadelphia. And I think it's just a great project, and happy to get behind it. And I know all the colleagues that have spoken before me are looking forward to supporting this in Harrisburg in any way, shape, or form possible. And I want to thank the committee for having a hearing on this, Chairman Johnson, and I want to thank Councilman Driscoll for leading the charge in this. I think you guys are all doing a wonderful job, and thanks for letting me speak.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from members of the committee? Well, I want to thank all of you for taking time out of your schedule and participating in the hearing. Just want you to know that all of you working together on one mission, rowing in the same direction, is very, very empowering. And so let's continue to move this ball forward. And again, thank you for taking your time out of your schedule and showing us how very important and critical this issue is to Northeast Philadelphia. Thank you very much. Will the clerk please call? There's a question. Joe, I see your hand is raised.
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
First off, I actually had my hand up since the SEPTA representative there, just looking for her name there.
Jennifer Dockery.
Yes.
But
She was
Joe,
the-
just so you know how this works, normally people participate in the panels, right? And you're speaking on behalf of what organization, if you don't mind me asking?
Hello, yes.
Obviously, my concerns would be that of public transportation, the citizens. I'm a civic association member as well as the Transport Workers Union representative here on the call today.
Absolutely. Are you here to participate as a panelist?
Well, you asked if I had any questions, so I raised my hand. And that's,
Okay.
like I said, I didn't
All
know if it was, for
Yeah.
if I was able to
Yes.
answer.
It's all right, Joe. I'll use my latitude, but when I say ask if there aren't any questions, I'm referring to members of the actual committee. That's
Gotcha.
all.
Good
But go
enough
ahead
for
and
me.
ask your question, Joe.
I was just wanting to know where you based your 12 miles on when you discussed the project, Jennifer.
Thanks, Joe. That number comes from the Route for Change study, which we worked with the City of Philadelphia, Bucks County, and PennDOT on. So that it comes from the previous study that was looking at both short-term 2025 improvements and 2040 improvements. So that is the length of the corridor that was studied. So basically, from Broad Street / Hunting Park Avenue out to about Neshaminy, Old Lincoln Highway in Bucks County.
And that starting point again was where?
Hunting Park Avenue, Broad Street.
Okay. When you said 12 miles, I thought you may have been referring to the Frankfurt Transportation Center. It's approximately 12 miles from there to Street Road, as opposed to the Alany Transportation Center, which would have been twice that amount. So I was just trying to see where SEPTA's head was at when it's figuring out the costs, because those costs are awfully high. And I was hoping at some point I could address those.
Yes, so this comes from the previous study, Route for Change. It's available on the city's website. That is what we're basing, and SEPTA is working with PennDOT on and our other stakeholder partners to do further study and refinement of the alternatives.
Right, and you mentioned subways. When the subway costs, the minute you put a shovel in the ground, the cost of the project is going to quadruple, as opposed to light rail or ultralight rail. So I was just curious to know why you would be looking into the subway option, which would virtually kill the project from the start, as opposed to a much more affordable option, similar to what we already have.
So
And as a
here's what I'd like
committee,
to do, Joe, if you don't mind, because you have your own time allotted for you to do your panel, which is no problem. And Jennifer's going to stick around, and you can take your panel time. If you want to go as long as you want to ask her questions, I think it'll be appropriate to do it at that particular time. And so Jennifer from SEPTA will stick around, and then when your time comes up on your panel, you'll have the ability to ask as many questions that you would like, okay?
Fair enough, thank you.
Thank you. To the members of the House delegation as well as the Senate, we thank you for your time to come down and do your testimony today. Thank you very much. Will the clerk please call the next panel?
Next to speak, we have Dr. Eric Goldwyn, Jay Arzu, and Nick Zuila Rogers.
Please state your name for the record and please begin.
I guess I'll go first. My name is Eric Goldwyn, Goldwyn. I'm a professor at New York University, and I study transit projects across the country and across the world. Thanks for having me here today. What's most exciting about this as a professor and a researcher is that I usually look at things that have been completed, not things that are sort of in the process of being built. In reading over some historical documents on this project, there were some questions about ridership and cars taken off the roadway. The numbers that I've seen are quite encouraging. The ridership estimate from a 2003 study was 125,000 riders per day. And to put this into context, in the United States, there is not another transit project other than in New York City, the Interborough Express and Phase 2 of the Second Avenue Subway that get over 100,000 riders per day. So this is extremely exciting. There's a project in the Bay Area. It's an extension of BART to San Jose. It's going to have about 33 to 50,000 riders per day. Seattle's projects also in that 40 to 50,000 riders per day ballpark. So you're talking about double, triple what other rail projects are seeing in the US. So that is extraordinarily exciting for someone like me. I study the cost drivers of transit projects in particular. There was someone just talking about the minute you put a shovel in the ground, it becomes very expensive. That's true. American projects in general, on average, are about $1 billion a mile, which is too high. You look at other parts of the world, it's closer to $350 million a mile. There are a lot of things we can do to bring those costs down. One thing that's interesting, I think, about this project, it's 12 stations. You look at other projects around the country, they're much smaller in length. And so there's not as many opportunities for standardization and sort of learning as you go. I think with this project, with 12 stations, you can design sort of a single standard station other than where you have sort of interfaces with other lines and really sort of squeeze out the efficiencies and optimize as much as possible. So I think it's a great project. I'm really excited to sort of see how it develops. And obviously I see some hands up. So if there are any questions, please let me know. And go Phillies.
Go Phillies, that's right. Can the clerk please call the next panelist?
Next to speak, we have Jay Arzu.
Thank you very much, Chairman, for giving me this opportunity to speak. My name is Jay Arzu. I am a PhD student in City and Regional Planning at the Penn Weitzman School of Design. I did prepare a brief statement, but instead of doing that, I will be instead reading a statement from PennDOT. PennDOT will not be on this call today, unfortunately, but they did have some updates for their Route for Change program that I wanted to share. So if I could briefly do that, sir.
Absolutely. Just state your name for the record and please read your statement.
Absolutely. Okay. Jay Arzu, Jay, last name Arzu, Arzu. So just to read from the PennDOT's document, the Road for Change program vision intends to transform Roosevelt Boulevard by enhancing safety, accessibility, and reliability along Roosevelt Boulevard for all users, including pedestrians, by supporting local, regional travel needs, changing land use patterns, enhancing connectivities and mobility to local communities while promoting economic opportunities. As the next phase of the Route for Change program, the department has initiated a two-tiered evaluation process that will be used to select a preferred alternative. A screening study will further refine the two general roadway alternatives initially identified into specific alternatives. They will then compare and analyze the six specific alternatives and recommend 3 or 6 specific alternatives for more analysis. So now I will read the different alternatives. For reference, the 2 high-level 2040 roadway alternatives initially identified: Alternative 1, partially capped expressway with surface transit, light rail, or bus rapid transit. Alternative 2, neighborhood boulevard with surface transit, light rail, or BRT. As part of Phase B, full 2040 alternatives analysis, 4 additional alternatives will be considered. Alternative 3, partially capped expressway with a subway. Alternative 4, neighborhood boulevard with subway. Alternative 5, blended roadway configuration with surface transit, light rail, or BRT. And lastly, alternative 6, blended roadway configuration with subway. Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to reiterate this information from PennDOT. I wish that they could have been here to explain this themselves, but it looks very so that PennDOT is moving forward with subway alternatives as included in its Route for Change Part B project. So we will be moving forward. We have a plan here, and I will give the floor back to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And I just want to acknowledge you for your hard work and your dedication on this particular project. So I am well aware of the work you have been doing as a Penn student and your passion around this particular project. Would a clerk please call the next panelist, please?
Last to speak on this panel, we have Nick Zuila Rogers.
Hi, my name is Nick Zuila Rogers. I'm the Transportation Program Director at Clean Air Council. Thanks for the opportunity to give this testimony today. The Council is a member-supported environmental advocacy organization whose mission is to protect everyone's right to a healthy environment. And I've been asked to come and explain why Clean Air Council supports enhanced high-quality transit service on Roosevelt Boulevard, including a subway, combined with a reimagined boulevard that prioritizes safety and neighborhood connectivity, and the reasons why we believe it's good for the environment. We're in an age of a climate crisis. Natural disasters are happening at increasing rates. We're seeing record year after record year of high temperatures. And this past year, our region experienced an abnormally high number of air quality action days where it was difficult to breathe here in Philadelphia. We need to act now in order to see meaningful reductions in carbon emissions fast enough that we avoid the worst impacts of climate change. Transportation is the leading source of climate emissions, and private autos are the largest part of that sector. That's larger than air travel or freight movement. Transportation and its associated congestion and idling also cause local air pollution, which has a major negative impact on the health of people in the region. Residents near major roadways like the Boulevard are more likely to suffer greater rates of asthma and other respiratory illness, as well as cardiovascular disease. And as such, shifting people to public transit is an environmental and public health imperative, and high quality service that is fast, frequent, reliable, clean, and safe is the only way we can convince people to become transit riders. And that's why creating a high quality transit service like a subway on Roosevelt Boulevard is so crucial. The Boulevard serves roughly a third of Philadelphia residents and carries 90,000 vehicles on it daily at its highest point. Currently, around 20,000 people use bus service on the Boulevard every day, but ridership could be so much higher if people had a truly high-quality option that was more convenient than using a car. Subways and high-speed trolleys only get people where they're going faster than a car in urban environments. They emit just 0.28 pounds per passenger mile of carbon dioxide compared to 0.87, which is more than triple from personal autos. A subway or other high-quality service that not only replaces trips along this road, but also efficiently connects service into the rest of SEPTA's system, including the Broad Street line serving Center City, is the solution we need to reduce emissions and improve air quality in Philadelphia. While high quality and high-speed transit service along the Boulevard would be an incredible addition to the existing transit system, it must go hand in hand with completely redesigning the Boulevard in a way that prioritizes pedestrian, cyclist, and driver safety. In its current form, Roosevelt Boulevard is one of the most dangerous roads in America. It's a road that was built to prioritize vehicle speed over safety, and statistics show this. Between 2012 and 2021, 119 people were killed in crashes along the Boulevard, including 49 pedestrians. In order for people to safely access a Roosevelt Boulevard subway in the future, the dangerous road conditions must be addressed. Removing cars while keeping the roadway the same has the potential to exacerbate dangerous speeding or even induce more demand for vehicles to take their place, if not done as part of a holistic redesign of the Boulevard. Transportation departments and transit agencies should partner together in this project to include right-sizing the road, as 12 or more lanes would no longer be necessary, and they already aren't. Since the installation of speed cameras along the boulevard, the rate of fatal crashes has slowed, and a recent federal grant to make incremental safety improvements along the roadway will be long overdue. But a complete redesign has the opportunity to build on this success by creating more people-centric places like wide sidewalks, trails, and green spaces along the corridor, which will make the road safer and more accessible to pedestrians. This reallocation of space can also have additional environmental benefits, as green stormwater infrastructure can be installed to reduce the effects of flooding and water pollution from the urban environment. If we're thinking big, like building a new subway, and we should be, we need to think big enough to complete the entire project and provide high-quality transit service, safe bicycle and pedestrian access to connect neighborhoods along the boulevard, and a safe roadway for vehicles. People need access to the future subway in order to use it, and they need to be safe doing so. The good news is we have the opportunity now to think big. Generational federal investment in infrastructure is available now, but we need to raise local funds to be able to match this investment and access the federal resources. We need City Council and local leaders to advocate in Harrisburg for the passage of enabling legislation to raise local funds for transit, and we need this body to act again once that legislation passes. We must act now. Philadelphia residents deserve environmental and public health benefits from high-quality transit on the boulevard, and we can't wait any longer. I encourage you to move forward in supporting the Boulevard subway in conjunction with redesigning the boulevard itself to make it safer and to serve the surrounding communities in a better way. In addition to moving forward with plans, we need our local leaders to advocate for necessary legislation at the state level to make any of this possible. I appreciate your time considering Clean Air Council's testimony, and I look forward to engaging with you further on the issue.
Thank you very much, Nick, for your presentation. And when you talk about building this Northeast subway railway, it also alludes to the fact of how we reduce our carbon footprint, also addressing the issue of global warming. It brings me to a conversation I had with my two boys about 2 weeks ago, asking me why we don't have winter anymore. And I started talking to them about global warming and the impact of global warming on our city as well as on our earth. And so we thank you for your hard work, and we thank you for your advocacy around this particular project. Was there any questions or comments from members of the committee? Okay, hearing none. Will the clerk please call the next panel?
For our next panel, we have Christopher Pochalski.
Good afternoon, Chairperson Johnson, members of the Committee on Transportation and Utilities. Thank you for the opportunity to appear before you today. My name is Christopher Pochalski. I'm the Director of Policy and Strategic Initiatives at the Office of Transportation, Infrastructure, and Sustainability, otherwise known as OTIS. And I'm here today to offer testimony on Resolution 230533. The Northeast needs better public transit, and OTIS is broadly supportive of the idea of a subway on Roosevelt Boulevard. Two important planning documents, the Philadelphia Transit Plan and the Roosevelt Boulevard Route for Change, both point to the need for significant transit investments along the boulevard. The idea of a subway on the boulevard is one that keeps coming up. This points to the intuitive benefits of this project. That it hasn't been built yet demonstrates the difficulties. The city is currently working with SEPTA and PennDOT to update the ridership forecasts and the conceptual costs for a subway, and I believe some of those numbers from the last study 20 years ago were cited already today in this hearing. A subway would provide significant mobility benefits to the Northeast. Better transit improves equity, reduces greenhouse gas emissions, reduces traffic fatalities, increases Philadelphia's economic competitiveness, and would allow for a reimagining of the Roosevelt Boulevard right away by removing thousands of vehicles a day from that facility. It would also invigorate the already dynamic neighborhoods all along the boulevard. And I will, for one, second the chairperson's comments about the excellent food in the Northeast. My favorite restaurant's Uzbekistan myself. Yet the challenges and implications of a subway are significant, and we should begin this endeavor with open eyes and a sober disposition. The capital costs will be larger than anything this region has seen in at least 40 years. While updated cost estimates will not be available for several months, it is certain that the engineering and planning costs alone will be more than the city's annual capital budget for transportation. While the local funds required for match for construction, match for any federal and state funds, that is, will be multiples of SEPTA's yearly capital budget. Those matching funds will either need to come from increases in taxes or from diverting from other capital investments in the city, fixing existing transit stations, new rail vehicles and buses, paving and ADA ramps, schools, parks, or some other source. The money just has to come from somewhere, and we should be sober about that. Large rail projects also take many years to complete, with the environmental impact statement phase alone taking a median time of over 4 years to complete, according to the Council on Environmental Quality and the Eno Foundation, and that's just the first stage of planning and design. We cannot wait for a possible subway to make improvements on Roosevelt Boulevard now. In the last 4 years, we undertook the landmark Route for Change study that produced the roadmap, and we received a federal mega grant of $78 million for a $137 million project for short-term improvements that will save people's lives. We initiated the Direct Bus A service that saved transit riders over 30% of their travel time along the boulevard, and are currently working on Direct Bus B and bus-only lane projects that will be delivered in the next 4 years. Perhaps most significantly, we worked with City Council, state legislators, PennDOT, PPA, and ordinary residents to pilot speed cameras that reduce speeding on the boulevard by over 90%. And I appreciate everyone on this call that voted for that pilot and who's supporting the renewal right now that is being worked through the State House. Delivering real improvements to transit riders on this corridor in the time it takes to complete the first phase of planning for a subway is not antithetical to future improvements, but helps build the transit markets in the Northeast. Just to summarize, a subway in the boulevard has great promise and significant challenges, which we should explore while also moving aggressively to implement shorter-term traffic safety and transit improvements. Thank you for the opportunity to appear before you today. I would be happy to answer any questions you have at this time.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from members of the committee? Hearing none, will the clerk please call the next panel? Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
For our next panel, we have Ryan Boyer, Alex Riccio, and Joe Coscio.
Will the clerk please call the next panel?
My apologies. For our next panel, we have Ryan Boyer, Alex Riccio, and Joe Coscio.
Okay, can the clerk call the next panel? Let's move on. Mo Reshady and Sarah.
Mr. Chair, can you hear me now?
Yes, I hear you.
Okay, sorry, I think I might have had technical difficulties, but this panel, Ryan Boyer, Alex Riccio, and Joe Coscio. I believe Mr. Coscio is on the screen to speak?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am, I am.
Yep. So,
Okay, just state your name for the record and begin.
Yes, sir. Joe Cochio, Transport Workers Union. I just have a few things jotted down here. I just want to thank everyone for the consideration of this subway project and the significant job opportunities it's going to present for everybody, including our union members. It's not just about infrastructure, it's about investing in the communities, our workforce, and the city's future. The project will generate thousands of well-paying jobs, union and the like. The jobs will provide workers, their families with stable incomes, benefits, retirements, securities. The ripple effect will extend beyond the job site, benefiting local businesses and communities. Our union members and the building trades are all highly skilled, trained professionals ready to contribute their expertise on the Roosevelt Boulevard subway project. Our union labor, we ensure quality workmanship, safety, efficiency throughout the construction and during the whole operating process. By utilizing union labor, I believe we all know that we invest in the best workforce and ensure the job is done correctly. Safety and quality, it's a top priority for us as well as it is for all of you here. We undergo rigorous safety training to prevent accidents and to ensure a secure work environment. We take pride in our craft, which leads to high quality construction and operations that stands the test of time. In our case, 80 plus years, 3 transit agencies. 40 of which I've been here for, I hate to say. Union workers, we take pride in our craft, as I said, and when it comes to public infrastructure, the safety and quality are non-negotiable, and we always deliver on both fronts. The project will breathe new life into the communities, boost local businesses, create a sense of pride, and reduce traffic congestion, very important on Route 1, needless to say, and everywhere for that matter in the city, lower emissions, make our cities more livable, more attractive. We're committed to working closely with local residents and stakeholders to minimize the disruptions and ensure the project's success. The long-term benefits, well, they could be investing in the subject project as an investment in the future. It'll enhance our transportation operation options and improve the quality of life. It will have a lasting impact benefiting communities and future generations. Environmentally, needless to say, the project aligns with environmental goals by promoting mass transit, reducing the carbon emissions, and addressing climate change. We're dedicated to sustainable practices and support projects that continue to contribute to a greener future. In conclusion, in advocating for the subway project, we're not just advocating for jobs, but a brighter future for our communities, a more robust economy, and a more sustainable environment. We invite you to join us in supporting the project and ensuring that all benefits all, union workers, local communities, and future generations alike. Together, we can build a better, more connected, more prosperous future through the power of union labor and infrastructure investment, and build that Broad Street subway extension. I just also like to point out a few things that we're talking about subways and we're talking about projects and costs, and money's always an object. Needless to say, whenever these things take place or they pop up, the United States is unfortunately the 6th most expensive country in the world to build a rapid rail infrastructure, and that hurts us. But there are cheaper alternatives. Subway is the best way to go, and I agree with everyone here, but that doesn't have to be the only way to go. Subway costs, for instance, could be upwards of $600 million per mile versus light rail, which could be $100 million per mile. Then you even have ultra light rail, which is a mere $15 million per mile. There's lots of options out there. And we all need to know that we should stay far away from any railroad because urban railroads, they cost the highest, and next to subways at least. So we have to look at light rail or ultralight rail, subway being the best, but probably the most expensive option we could face. As I say, when you put that shovel in the ground, all hell breaks loose, needless to say. So there are cheaper alternatives out there, and they're very viable and much easier, less intrusive, such as the ultralight rail. It interacts well with the city. It's very similar to what we run in Southwest Philly already, with the LRV trolley cars running down the same road as the cars, and the same in Media Sharon Hill. So it does work, and it is the cheapest, the least intrusive, and easiest one to attain. That's pretty much all I have to say, except thanks to everybody again.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Any questions or comments from members of the committee?
Yes, this is Butch Bennett with the Philadelphia Building Trades. I want to thank Councilman Kenyatta Johnson. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, Butch. I just have a question though. Are you part of the panel, Butch?
I'll be speaking for Ryan Boyer.
Yes. So don't ask your question just yet because you're part of the panel. So we're going to call you next.
Okay.
Any questions? Any questions or comments from members of our Committee on Transportation and Public Utilities? Okay. At this moment, I'm going to call on Butch Bennett on behalf of Ryan Boyer, the Philadelphia Building Trades. Butch, go ahead and give your testimony. Good to hear from you as well.
It is excellent to be a part of this committee. And I'd just like to say, you know, when you have projects like this, I think we have to also think outside of the box. We know what the benefits of a subway on Roosevelt Boulevard would do for not only the community and workers trying to move around the city, but just think about the work that it would cause and the effect that it would have on the local unions. We would have to get more local people to join unions and to come into the building trades. So I think we're talking about building a subway, which is great, but it's also good career sustaining project jobs that these young people, what we worry about, that are out there just, you know, just no place to go and no hope. I think this will give them an outlook, and I think our city will be much safer. And I think we really would have to consider this massive undertaking that could change the dynamics for the young people in our city.
Thank you very much. Is anyone else here to testify on this panel? Any questions or comments for this panel? Thank you very much, both of you, for your testimony. Thank you, TWU, for the hard work that y'all are doing and keeping our city moving forward. Butchie, I want to thank you for your hard work that you're doing with the Philadelphia Building Trades, making sure that we're building Philadelphia with good union paying jobs in the labor workforce. Thank you very much. Will the clerk please call the next panel?
On our next panel, we have Mo Rushdie and Sarah McGinnis.
Well, Mo,
Mr. Chairman. Hello, Mr. Chairman. Mo is here. Thank you so much for having me today. My name is Mo Rushdie, and I am the current Vice President of the Building Industry Association of Philadelphia. It's a trade association of mostly residential developers working throughout Philly, along with the professionals who provide them with the products and the services. I want to thank Chairman Johnson and the rest of the committee for allowing me to provide testimony today, and especially Councilman Driscoll for putting the spotlight on this issue with resolution number 230533. The BIA enthusiastically endorses the idea of really extending the Broad Street subway line into Northeast Philly along the Roosevelt Boulevard. And we applaud Councilman Driscoll for this vision and his vision and advocacy. Northeast Philly is one of the most underserved parts of the city in regards to public transportation. And the vast economic benefits of this extension will continue Philadelphia's emergence as a world-class city. The BIA are experts in housing, and the housing surrounding the Roosevelt Boulevard is dense and optimal to be served by rapid transit. In addition, there are many struggling strip malls with massive parking lots that can be developed into higher density mixed use residential and commercial space if transit access was improved. There are not many neighborhoods left in Philly where one can develop without displacement. So this could really create tremendous opportunities to provide Philadelphians the workforce housing that they need, adjacent to the transit that they desire, without creating stress on nearby neighborhoods. You know, the BIA for the last 15 years has urged council to improve citywide opportunities for transit-oriented development to maximize the amount of dense residential business. And I do know that SEPTA has already been working on these TOD legislations and leisure spaces within walking distance of public transportation. The city has made some progress, but we have a long ways to go. And an extended Broad Street line into Northeast Philly could really unlock that potential and create an entire sustainable neighborhoods of pedestrians and transit riders. So the BIA really supports exploring this idea further, and we really thank the sponsor and all of council for allowing us to present our thoughts, and thank you for your consideration.
Next on this panel, we have Sarah McGinnis.
Sarah,
Good
please
afternoon.
begin.
Oh.
Go ahead, Sarah.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chairperson Johnson and other members of the Committee on Transportation and Public Utilities. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak with all of you today. My name is Sarah McGinnis, Executive Director of NAIOP Greater Philadelphia, and today I am representing the Philadelphia Real Estate Alliance, or PREA. PREA is a coalition of 4 groups: NAIOP Greater Philadelphia, representing developers, owners, and related professionals in office, industrial, and mixed-use real estate; the Building Industry Association, or BIA; the Building Owners and Managers Association, or BOMA; and the General Building Contractors Association, or GBCA. I'm here today to provide remarks regarding the potential impacts and benefits of an extension of the existing Broad Street subway line into Northeast Philadelphia and Bucks County along Roosevelt Boulevard. The idea of extending the Broad Street line to the northeast was first proposed more than 100 years ago. In the century since, the need for the project has only become more pronounced. The Greater Philadelphia chapter of NAIOP believes that extending the Broad Street line into the northeast and beyond represents not just a crucial investment into that part of the city, but into our city as a whole. It will have enormous positive impacts on job creation, economic development, equity, safety, sustainability, and tourism. The project will provide fast and reliable public transit to the Northeast Philadelphia and Lower Bucks County, something that those living in that corridor need desperately. Northeast Philadelphia, as it stands right now, is relatively isolated. This project will connect residents to job opportunities that had previously been inaccessible or inconvenient. This added accessibility means that many workers who live in the Northeast and Bucks County will no longer have to shoulder the heavy financial burden of car ownership. This easier access to the Northeast also creates an increased opportunity for firms and businesses to locate their operations on or near this brand new state-of-the-art infrastructure. In turn, this will bring more people traveling into and out of the Northeast and more customers for local businesses. New housing will also develop along the corridor, allowing us to address our city's housing crisis. Ultimately, this project will have a cascading effect that will make it an economic development engine for decades to come. Another benefit at the heart of this project is that of equity. It is no secret that our communities in Northeast Philadelphia are some of our city's most underserved. Access to safe, reliable, and affordable public transportation is crucial. Public transit allows Philadelphians and suburban neighbors to get to work, visit their doctors, go grocery shopping, and patronize small businesses across the city. With this project, we are removing barriers that prevent far too many in that community from living healthy and prosperous lives. As Philadelphia looks towards the future, and as we prepare for a new city council term and a new mayor, projects like this are crucial for our success. Currently, Philadelphia is making plans to host the 2026 World Cup and put our city on display to the world. Projects like this will make Philadelphia a more accessible city for international visitors, allowing our great and historic city to host even more top-tier events and live up to our status as a city of first class. Businesses, small and large, the development community, and countless Philadelphians will all benefit from an extension of the Broad Street line into the Northeast and beyond. Through a robust public and private partnership, we can create a resource that our communities need to flourish and that our city needs to progress into the future. Thank you again for the opportunity to testify, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
You're welcome. Any other questions or comments from members of the committee? Hearing none. Thank you for your testimony. Will the clerk please call the next panel?
On the next panel, we have Will Carter.
Will, can you
All
state
right.
your... I'm doing good. How are you?
All right. Hold on, Councilman. Let me put on my readers. Hopefully, this is not telling my age here. Councilman, good afternoon, Chairman Johnson and Councilman Driscoll and members of the Committee on Transportation and Public Utilities. My name is William Carter. I'm Vice President of Local Government Advocacy at the Chamber of Commerce for Greater Philadelphia, and I appreciate being here to speak about the impact of extending the Roosevelt Boulevard line. The Chamber believes that the future success of our region relies upon a growth strategy that builds a better business climate, accelerates economic competitiveness, and increases economic inclusion. Critical infrastructure investments that expand the use of multimodal nodes, highways, bridges, transit, ports, intercity passenger rail, and international airport are necessary to accommodate and accelerate the region's development. A post-COVID PennDOT study on investment in public transportation quantified the importance of investment in public transit and passenger rail service. Direct expenditures to improve transportation infrastructure and provide transit and rail services have a multiplier effect within Pennsylvania's economy. This spending generates additional impacts and jobs throughout the supply chain and when employee earnings are recirculated as household spending. On an annual basis, pre-COVID, economic impacts from operating and capital activity to provide and maintain public transit and passenger rail service total $5.41 billion within Pennsylvania's economy. This activity supports nearly 39,000 jobs with $2.75 billion in employee compensation within the state. These jobs are a combination of direct employment by transportation providers and indirect jobs supported by their spending, according to the study. The economic impact of this economic impact, I should say, expands far outside of just job creation and economic activity. It provides employers greater access to workforce, increases employment opportunities for those living in our city and region, and accelerates our economic competitiveness. A multimodal transportation network also provides safe and equitable access to community resources like healthcare, education, public services, and recreational activities. Additionally, there's an environmental impact from reduction of carbon emissions, and individual riding transit reduces the carbon footprint by at least 55%. Roosevelt Boulevard is a major transportation corridor, as we all know, with upwards of 90,000 commuters. It's been touched on earlier. It touches more than 20 of the most diverse neighborhoods in our city and home to 1 in 3 Philadelphia residents and connects us to Interstate 76 and the neighboring Bucks County. The Chamber has explored transportation investment opportunities in the past to include the Roosevelt Boulevard and issued a set of strategic improvements through our Connecting the Region analysis. In this report, the transformation of the 14-mile corridor would be achieved through dedicated lanes for rapid bus service connecting Fern Rock Transportation Center and Wissahickon Transportation Center and buffered bike lanes. Since then, the city launched the Route for Change initiative and was awarded $78 million in federal funding for interventions along the boulevard, which include business access transit, simpler and safer intersections, and transit priority. These improvements will enhance SEPTA investments such as Boulevard Direct bus service, improved bus stops, and the currently under construction Wissahickon Transportation Center. The Chamber remains committed to working with key stakeholders, including those on this committee and at the state level, both public and private, to identify investment opportunities that increase our region's economic vitality, enhance our quality of life. Public transit investments help to achieve these goals, and we appreciate your City Council's commitment to prioritizing and investing in inclusive growth. And we thank this committee and the sponsor of this resolution, Councilman Driscoll, and we look forward to working with them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Will. Any other questions or comments from members of this committee? Okay, hearing none. Is anyone else here whose name has not been called to testify on this panel? Well, at this time, we want to take a brief pause to allow members who have registered for public comment to join us for a virtual meeting. We will now hear testimony from those who have signed up for public comment. I want to give the tech team an opportunity to take a brief pause so they can make sure that anyone that wants to participate in the public comment section, an opportunity for them to get on this hearing.
Many members and participants, we are now live.
Thank you very much. This is the Committee on Transportation and Public Utilities. At this time, we're going to have public comment, and we will ask that you limit your comments between 2 to 3 minutes. 3 minutes is a max, as we have a significant amount of people here to participate in this public comment portion of the hearing. Will the clerk please call the first person for public comment?
First, we have Ming Chu Pearl Hyun.
Hello, hi, dear member of the chairman and the committee. Hello.
Yes, you can go ahead and begin your testimony. Just say your name.
My name is Ming Chu Pearl Hyun.
Go ahead and say your testimony.
Hi, thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak here. I'm the president of the Northeast Philadelphia Chinese Association, and the people I serve is mainly located, the Chinese new immigrants moved into this area in the past 10 years and located in Oxford Circle, Mayfair neighborhood. The Chinese private bus take the people down from New York, and when they stop at Macy and at Rising Sun and Adam Avenue. That's along the boulevard. And these two bus stops had created the Chinese, had formed the Chinese community in the Northeast. So you can see transportation is very important. In the past 10 years, the property in Northeast Philadelphia also double or triple in Mayfair, Longcrest, and Oxford Circle. So, however, we residents feel like transportation could be more convenient, and we are not connected to the center city. And for the Chinese folk who have moved down here from New York City, traveling to New York City with a direct bus line seems to be more convenient than going into center city or South Philly. With the population growing fast, property values increase. If we have convenient transportation, such as a new subway line on Roosevelt Boulevard, is it an excellent investment for Philadelphia? It will not only fuel up the economy within the Northeast, but will radiate to our entire city. In addition, it will make our city look more modernized, Look at major city around the world, and speed train line is very common. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Will the clerk please call the next person with testimony?
Next to speak, we have Will Tung.
Hello.
Will, are you
Good
there?
afternoon. I'm here. Do you
Good
hear me?
afternoon, Will. Hear you.
Yeah,
Yes.
good afternoon. And thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Will Tung. I'm a father, a Philadelphia resident, and a transit advocate with Fifth Square. I joined the over 600 petition signers in support of a subway for Roosevelt Boulevard. I'm a lifelong transit rider, and I've seen firsthand the benefits that public transportation can provide. It's a reliable and affordable way to get around, and it helps to reduce traffic congestion. A subway on Roosevelt Boulevard would be a great addition to our city, cutting travel times and congestion, not just in Northeast Philly, but throughout all of Philadelphia. As a father, I'm concerned about the air quality in our city. Cars are a major source of pollution, and they contribute to climate change. A subway would help to reduce air pollution and make our city a much healthier place to live. I am also a Philadelphia resident, and I care about the future of our city. A new subway line would be a major investment in our city's future. It would create jobs, boost economic development, and uplift existing residents. As we see younger generations being less likely to own a car, my daughter, for instance, says she never wants a driver's license. Northeast Philly desperately needs better transit options to remain a vibrant and relevant place to live. As the over 600 petition signers and the attendees at 3 open house meetings can attest, there is widespread support for this proposal among Philly residents. And looking at transit alternatives for the boulevard, it's clear that a subway is the best option, allowing a one-seat ride to Center City and providing a ride that won't get stuck in traffic. I urge all of our elected officials to support a subway on Roosevelt Boulevard, and it's a wise investment in our city's future. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Will the clerk please call the next person for public testimony?
Next, we have Alessa Mary Abruzzo.
Hi, my name is Alessa Abruzzo, and I lived in Northeast Philadelphia my entire life. I'm the third generation of my family to live here, and the second to live only a few blocks from Roosevelt Boulevard. Traveling into and out of the Northeast is an arduous process. In middle and high school, my commute took over an hour and required 2 transfers. In college, it often took an hour and a half for me to commute to Temple University, a commute which often required crossing 12 lanes of boulevard traffic before taking a bus and 2 rail lines. The fact that it took so long to reach a location that is only 30 minutes away by car is ridiculous. But this is standard for public transit to and from the Northeast. As an adult, I don't drive due to disability. This means that I rely on public transit for everything, from medical appointments to seeing my friends who live in other parts of the city. I take the same long route that I used to use for school. Crossing the boulevard in one light is impossible thanks to my mobility issues, and I have to watch my bus pass me while stuck on the median. I jokingly refer to crossing the boulevard as human Frogger because of how dangerous it can be. There are events that I skip because I don't feel well enough to cross 12 lanes of traffic with a crutch, only to take 3 different modes of public transit to reach a destination for maybe an hour. This is an isolating choice, especially for a disabled person, and being stuck at home due to inadequate public transit is frustrating. The boulevard extension would make public transit into and out of the Northeast faster and more accessible for some of our most vulnerable residents, including students and those living with disability. The extension will connect the Northeast to the rest of Philadelphia, helping to alleviate the isolation this area experiences. It will also improve educational equality, enabling students to choose their schools based on curriculum rather than bus routes. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Will the clerk please call the next person with public comment testimony?
Next to speak, we have Abigail Thomas.
Hello, my name is Abigail Thomas.
Thank you to the council members and their respective staff for the opportunity to speak today about the possibility of a Roosevelt Boulevard subway. I'm also grateful to the others on this call who are also submitting their public comments. My name is Abigail Thomas, and I am 21 years old, and I have lived here my whole life. My family has also lived here for a long time. My parents are immigrants who decided to raise their family here. I have found it to be one of the most diverse places in the city when it comes to different ethnicities and different demographics of people with different life experiences. If you live in the far Northeast, you know how hard it can be to use public transportation to and back to the city. In high school and college, I found it frustrating that I would have to take more than one train or so just to get to class. I know for a fact high school students in Northeast Philly need to wake up much earlier than their other peers who had easy access to BSL stops near them. It sounds silly to some, but for growing teenagers to wake up as early as 5:30 or 6 a.m. to catch two buses to receive a high school education can impact their health long term. This is particularly unfair to public high school students who cannot afford to go to the Catholic high schools in the area who decided to go to public school in the city instead. When I went to CCP, I also woke up earlier than a lot of my peers who lived near the BSL because the main campus offered an honors program. I want to be clear, support for the Roosevelt Boulevard subway is not only because of my experiences as a Phila SD or CCP student. As an urban and environmental planning major, I want the Northeast to no longer feel separate from the rest of the city. Aside from the obvious benefits of decongesting roads and promoting the use of public transportation so we can fund projects like this all the more, I also care about a more sustainable future. Even with more energy-efficient cars, our frequent lines from the Northeast to the city can create a way for the city to also engage with us socially, economically, and culturally, promoting growth in ways that can be helpful for us. For some, we know that safety is a concern. I also ask that my support for the subway also be taken into consideration for the right funding to be secured so that riders can also feel that it is safe and clean. Part of the appeal for riders is knowing that it will be safe for all of us. I have felt particularly passionate about this project for years since I was in high school. It would be amazing for my part of the city to feel seen and heard in this way, as we often feel disconnected, but not just because of politics, but spatially, and a Roosevelt Boulevard subway can bridge that gap. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Will the clerk please call the next person up with testimony?
Next, we have John Malman.
Hi, everyone, and thank you for taking the time to discuss this important topic, and thank you for allowing testimony from the public. My name is John Malman. I live at Winchester and the Boulevard. I've lived here now for about 11 years, but I am a lifelong Philadelphia resident. I was previously a daily 14 and Market Frankford Line rider for work until I switched jobs in 2018. It used to take me about an hour or so to get from my door to my office at 13th and Pine on a good weekday. Now, if there was a problem on the Boulevard, which there often was, that time could be up to 2 hours just to go downtown. Northeast Philadelphia is often ignored, but with over 150,000 people here living in the far Northeast, and I'm including zip codes 19114, 115, 116, 136, 152, and 154. These are citizens, these are 150,000 Philadelphia citizens that do not have access to transit that isn't reliant on one of the most dangerous and poorly planned road corridors in the United States. Every day when I took the bus, I had to cross the Boulevard and hope I would make it across in one light, or make it across at all, as cars would often ignore lights or posted signs. I really like living in the Northeast. I have a lawn, I have a garage. We have excellent food up here, as everybody has commented. We have excellent parks. We have a lot to offer, and yet people still scoff at living up here or traveling up here just because it is so far separated from the rest of the city unless you drive. I often hear friends of mine say that we might as well live in a separate state. It is so far disconnected. A subway up the Boulevard could help alleviate that separation and bring more people in to experience what we have to offer up here. It can also help the inverse, giving 150,000 plus Philadelphia residents safe, direct access to the rest of the city. My partner and I get food or drinks, or often go down to Center City for food or drinks, or Fishtown or South Philly, and we resort to driving because it takes so long to get down there otherwise. This sometimes limits where we can go or how long we can stay out for, because I don't want to drink and drive. I also don't want to sit in traffic for 40 or 50 minutes. So this would be a win for over 150,000 Philadelphia residents And it would be a win for the thousands of businesses in the city if something like the Roosevelt Boulevard subway were to happen. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Will the clerk please call the next person to testify?
Next, we have Anthony Mariani.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
Okay, hi, I'm Anthony Mariani. I live in this city. I take the subway every day, and I'm here to speak in support of the Roosevelt Boulevard subway project. It's the most impractical mass transit project in the United States if it could be built. Construction of a heavy rail extension of the Broad Street line down Roosevelt Boulevard would be positively transformational for the city, for our economy, for our people, for our environment. I understand the concerns people have about SEPTA. I take it every day. The problems SEPTA has are the problems Philadelphia has: underinvestment, inequality, the privileging of private profit over public good. The Roosevelt Boulevard subway would be a giant strike back against this inequality and underinvestment. We could have a city of on-time trains instead of car accidents, a bright future instead of a dim one, clean air instead of dirty air, safe streets instead of some of the most dangerous in the world, a city for the working class instead of just the well-off, thousands of good union jobs. I urge you as city council members to dedicate yourselves to see this Roosevelt Boulevard subway project is completed for our economy and for our environment, for our city. We can have a city of brotherly love instead of traffic jams. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Will the clerk please call the next person to testify?
Next to testify, we have Jacob Coates.
Hi, my name is Jacob Coates. I lived in the Northeast for about several years, and I'm sure my experience is similar to so many others. It's been said before on here that it really is just a feeling of disconnection from the city. You're underserved. Your options to get into Center City, or if you want to, take your life in your hands going down the boulevard or wait an hour for regional rail, you just feel pretty stranded. And adding this subway line, giving people the option, would be life-changing for so many, not just for going to and from businesses, but also just jobs and general quality of life. Philadelphia is a proud city, and I think public transit is something that a city should be proud of. And I really would love to see this go through and give us another win for the city. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Will the clerk please call the next person to testify?
Next to testify, we have Betty Hackney.
Hi, my name is Betty Hackney. I've spent more than 30 years calling Northeast Philly my home. And having lived there, and many of my friends and family are still living there, I've always had I'm proud to be from the area. There's truly nothing like it. It is the epitome of a melting pot representing more than a dozen nationalities and ethnicities, and the Northeast is a truly unique entity. So much so that professionally, as an architecture and urban design professor, I take my own design students to the Northeast and have them engage with the area. And no matter how many groups I've taken to the area, and at this point it's over 30 students, I always hear the same comments. Are we still in Philadelphia? Why did I never know about this part of the city? Why is it so hard to get here? This place is great. Which stems to the core issue and why we're all here, right? This lack of accessibility that's caused to our lack of public access and transport. The Northeast is effectively cut off from the rest of Philadelphia, making car ownership a necessity. Statistics have told us in most major metropolitan areas, cars are not the answer, nor ideal. And while we do have very limited SEPTA access, their frequency and routes are inadequate to say the least. This leaves people stranded and lacking any sort of formal connection with Center City. It is literally a chore to figure out how many connections one would have to take and how long it would have to take to get to other parts of the city if you don't have a car. As a result, the area is simply being left behind in development, and there's no better way of saying it, but I find that to be a crime. This area, which is home to so many, and as we all can agree, the best food in the city, has so much to offer, and is being disregarded simply because people can't get here. It's with that in mind and knowing how much the area could benefit from this connector, I full-heartedly support the Roosevelt Boulevard subway expansion. Some critics will come out and say it's unnecessary, we already have SEPTA bus routes, and it might even bring undesirables to the area. To that, I say no. It will in fact make the boulevard an engaging piece of public design, much safer, no more hopping and hoping you don't get hit by a car. It could bring jobs to the area, and above all else, it will unite the Northeast with the rest of this absolutely amazing city that I'm proud to call my home. I no longer want Northeast Philly to be the best kept secret in Philadelphia. It's time everyone else found out, and we can do that by expanding our public transit and building the Roosevelt Boulevard subway connector. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Will the clerk please call the next person to testify?
Next to testify, we have Hassan Talouli.
Hello, my name is Hassan Talouli, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to comment on the Broad Street line proposal. I'm a lifelong resident of Northeast Philadelphia in the Torresville area, and as a result, I am very well acquainted with I-95 and the Boulevard. As a child, I went to school near Northeast Philadelphia region, as well as North Philadelphia. Given that the only public transit option to get to school would be for my siblings and I to take a nearly 2-hour transit ride each way, the only viable option for us was for our parents to drive us to school. This resulted in our parents having to bear the soul-crushing traffic of I-95 each morning to get us to school, then to go back to work, and finally scrambling to pick us up at the end of the day, just barely in time. Then as a young adult, I went to school at Drexel University, which again, the only feasible option was to drive to school. And now that's nothing to say of the headache of getting to work once I graduated from Drexel University. Northeast Philadelphia has always felt disconnected from the rest of the city, and getting anywhere is always a hassle unless you're ready to put up with an hour of traffic at least. Given that Northeast Philadelphia is such a huge part of the city of Philadelphia, this is baffling. The proposed Broad Street line extension will remedy many of these problems. It would make Philadelphia more connected. It will simplify commutes of thousands of Northeast Philadelphians to a single train ride. And of course, it will greatly reduce traffic congestion along I-95 and the Boulevard, as people are no longer forced to drive to other parts of the city. I urge the city of Philadelphia to go forward with the Broad Street line extension. For decades, Philadelphia and its infrastructure have stagnated and even decayed. Philadelphia is one of America's greatest cities, and in my opinion, its greatest, and has so much potential to grow and improve its citizens' lives. We should not take half steps when it comes to this. We should go with what is clearly the best option, a full extension of the Broad Street line subway. The people of Philadelphia deserve no less. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Will the clerk please call the next person with their testimony?
Next, we have James Doherty.
Hello? Hello?
Yes, go ahead and begin your testimony.
Yes, my name is James Doherty. I'm a lifelong resident of Northeast Philadelphia. I grew up and went to school and went to college. I've heard other people's testimonies, and, you know, like everybody, nobody knows where the Northeast is. I have friends who are from out there and ask, where's the Northeast? And I believe having this will help bring other people into Northeast and other parts of the area. SEPTA's, you know, it takes me an hour and a half to get from here and there. I take 2 or 3 buses just to get to work, and I work in Center City. You know, it's going to bring 10,000 jobs and also bring other people from other areas into Philadelphia. So I support this to bring more people into the Northeast and let them know what the Northeast is actually about. There's so many good places, diners, restaurants, bars, shopping centers, and students have to commute. If you live in the Northeast, it would take us an hour and a half or an hour from the L to this bus to that bus. This is why I'm urging, you know, the legislative to please pass this on making this happen in the city, and not just for the city, for the citizens of Philadelphia and for the people who are going to be working on this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Will the clerk please call the next person to testify?
Mason Carter.
Hi, my name is Mason Carter, and I am a resident of Mount Airy. And I'm someone who really tries to take advantage of the Northeast because I think it's really unique and has such a beautiful international scene there. And that's kind of the thing about building this. It's something that I truly think it's very daunting now, but it's something that honestly people are going to thank all of us for coming together to try to get the Roosevelt Boulevard subway built in the future. And it's only going to get more expensive to build it, not less. It's not going to get any easier. This infrastructure bill has a very tight window for taking advantage of it. And I also think that it's a lot of money, but it's very smart money, not dumb money, very smart. And honestly, it needs to be built the right way. So I think that when it comes to it, while subway is more expensive, it really needs to integrate with the Broad Street line and become truly something that people will use, not just within the city, but people that visit. And to the point that I think that the return on investment in this will just be, we're not even going to care about how much, how big the cost was. So I think that honestly, it's something that should be done expediently, collaboratively, and something that the city really needs to take a lead on. And it would be really good for the morale of the city, which really needs it. So thank you very much for listening to all of us today.
Thank you for your testimony. Will the clerk please call the next person for public testimony?
Chris Gillespie.
Hi, thanks to the chairman and all members of the City Council. I appreciate your considering this resolution. I'm here to speak in support of it. My name is Chris Gillespie, and I love Philly. As I'm sure every lover of Philadelphia can attest, it can take a lot of effort to get something done here, and that's why I wanted to speak today. I want to applaud the City Council members for taking the mantle of leadership on this important project. I think for too long, Philly has been a city that's desperately underserved by our transportation infrastructure. Huge parts of our city, not just Northeast, are disconnected from one another due to decades of underinvestment, a lack of clear vision, and fiscal negligence on the part of our regional and state partners. But worse, we rely too much on driving. It causes other problems. We have unnecessary car trips that are poisoning our air that our kids breathe. It litters our streets with bodies of victims of traffic violence, and it causes the very congestion and parking problems that frustrate so many of our neighbors who have to drive to get to work and do their day-to-day things. The proposed resolution is only the beginning of a solution to these problems, but I think it's a major commitment to changing what's wrong with the way we plan for and design our city. I'm calling on you guys, on the members of this committee and on City Council to embrace not just this proposed subway, and yes, subway, not light rail, but a broader vision of how we can move ourselves better. And that means taking transportation system design seriously and fixing the city's problems with the proliferation of vetoes that all too often stop progress in its track. That means embracing the SEPTA bus revolution. That means thinking beyond Northeast and considering transportation corridors to other underserved parts of the city in West, Southwest, and Northwest Philly. And that means building a real and comprehensive network for bikes, scooters, other new kinds of electric micromobility options, those one-wheel things that people fly around on. These are exciting new technologies that can revolutionize the way we move around the city, but they can't exist safely alongside cars. So thank you for your leadership on this resolution. I'm thrilled that we've gotten this far, and I urge you to continue on the path of embracing positive change for everyone in our great city. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Will the clerk please call the next person with public testimony?
Next, we have Samuel Chuna.
Mr. Samuel is not available.
Oh. Thank you. So then next we have Ted Zellers.
It's Ted Zellers. Hello, my name is Ted Zellers. I live in North Square in North Philly with my fiance. Like a third of Philadelphians, we don't own a car, and we strongly support the Roosevelt Boulevard subway plan. We're really excited about it. We don't own a car because, like a lot of other folks, we like to save money. We like to try to stay healthy and have an active lifestyle. And we're also both deeply concerned about climate change. I'm sure everybody has seen some news about the migration crisis that's happening right now in the Americas, and also the one in Europe, both of which have been unfolding for years. Climate change is one of the factors that's driving people to have to leave their traditional homes. And among all the other negative aspects of climate change, this seems like a really big one, as well as flooding was mentioned in Eastwick and East Falls and Manayunk, and heat-related deaths in North Philly. And it's hard to think of a project that would have a bigger impact in terms of climate change than taking about 100,000 car trips off the road every single day. So we're really excited about this project. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for your testimony. Will the clerk please call the next person with public testimony?
Next we have Tahir Farid.
Hello, good afternoon. This is Tahir Farid. First of all, thank you so much for giving me the chance. I would like to bring the idea of population density based on census data we're having. The area in the Northeast, the near Northeast and the far Northeast is very diverse. And this project will solve many major issues in Philadelphia, like poverty, unemployment, and housing in the area. I would like to thank Jay and Joe Kosho for bringing the idea of alternative plans like an elevated light rail that costs a lot less. And the best example we're having is actually a Brightline in Florida, which costs $55 million a mile. These actually supported by a lot of other data like and existing infrastructure on Northeast as well. We see that it passes through Sandy Run, Taconic Creek, and Penny Park Creek as well. There is also many bridges supporting building the elevated light rail. In other connection, it will connect not just riders, it will connect workforce, businesses, and as well the fourth busiest airport in the Northeast as well. I would like to have a consideration that Hunting Park being a part of the project, and this is also not just transit equities, it's transit equity as well as health equity. It will matches also other projects like Vision Zero 2025 and Philadelphia 2035. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your testimony. Will the clerk please call the next person for public testimony?
Next we have Cameron Purcell.
Good afternoon, Council. Thank you for the opportunity to provide public comment on this issue. My name is Cam Purcell, and I want to voice my strong support for the Roosevelt Boulevard subway extension. I've lived in Philly for 7 years now and take the Broad Street line at least 3 times a week. Our city stands at a crossroads, and this project represents a pivotal step towards a more sustainable, efficient, and accessible future. I urge you to consider the following points. First, congestion on our roads has reached a breaking point. The Roosevelt Boulevard is emblematic of this issue, with its daily gridlock leading to hours of wasted time, increased emissions, and frustrated commuters. A subway line would reduce traffic congestion and improve air quality, which directly benefits our environment and public health. Accessibility is another critical factor. The subway would open doors for those who are currently underserved by public transportation. Many residents in outlying areas struggle to access job opportunities, educational institutions, and healthcare facilities due to limited transportation options. Building the Roosevelt Boulevard subway would bring economic and social equity to the area, granting more people the chance to thrive in our great city. Safety concerns cannot be ignored either. Accidents on the boulevard are far too common, often involving pedestrians, cyclists, and drivers. A subway would reduce these risks and create a safer environment for everyone, especially our most vulnerable citizens. Lastly, sustainability is a paramount consideration. We live in an age where environmental responsibility is no longer optional. A subway system powered by clean energy sources aligns with our commitment to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and combat climate change in the city of brotherly love. The Roosevelt Boulevard Subway Project is an opportunity to transform our city for the better. It addresses issues of congestion, accessibility, and safety while promoting a more sustainable future. I urge Council to support this expansion of public transit and ask you to dedicate your time to ensuring this project happens by directing SEPTA to source funding for planning and engineering for this project. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Will the clerk please call the next person with public comment?
Next, we have Sebastian Hardinger.
Hi, my name is Sebastian Hardinger. I'm urging council to support the Roosevelt Boulevard subway. A lot of people have talked about its benefits. I also want to talk about how it makes Philadelphia look compared to the rest of the country. There's a fair amount of transit expansion around the country. Other cities are doing stuff. LA's got the Purple Line extension. New York's got the 2nd Avenue subway. Boston's got the Green Line extension. DC's got the Silver Line extension. Chicago's got the Red Line extension. Even Baltimore is looking at the new Red Line subway. So I don't think that Philadelphia really can afford to miss out, especially with the increase in transit money from the Biden administration and from having someone who's from the region in the White House as well right now. I think this is just a really crucial opportunity. And I don't think we can let this opportunity get missed as so many other opportunities to build the Roosevelt Boulevard subway have been missed in the past. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your testimony. Will the clerk please call the next person with public testimony?
Next, we have Robert Pollock.
Yes, hello. My name is Robert Pollock. I live in the Roxborough section of Philadelphia. As someone who drives the Roosevelt Boulevard corridor daily, the problems are extremely apparent. As mentioned, it's one of the most dangerous roadways in the city, if not the country. A heavy rail and blended streets option will benefit our region financially, improve the health and safety of the people living along the corridor, and allow for renewed development in our city. The cost may be high, but the cost of inaction is higher. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Will the clerk please call the next person with public testimony?
Next, we have John Nichols.
Hi, yes, can you hear me? My name is John Nichols, and I am calling to voice my support for the Broad Street subway extension, or the Broad Street line subway extension along the Roosevelt Boulevard. I commute regularly from South Philly to Lambertville, and every day stare at all the cars sitting in traffic, not moving, as they approach Center City. We are a city that is brimming with untapped potential. And if we want to see our city reach this potential, we need to start thinking like the big city we really are. Building the Roosevelt Boulevard subway would open the city to well over 100,000 people. It would provide them both jobs for the construction and operation of the line. It would also allow for increased access to jobs. Furthermore, because of the reduced traffic, money will be saved not only by reducing the wear and tear on the roads, but also the wear and tear on residents' cars. The reduction in traffic would also help to improve pedestrian safety along the corridor and improve the driving conditions of those who still must drive regardless. The economic benefits of this project would ripple throughout our region. Commute times from the Northeast and along the I-95 corridor would be reduced. Access and ability to participate in events throughout the city would be increased. Carbon footprints, air pollution from particulates from brake pads and tires and tire wear and tearing up the roads would be reduced. Noise would be reduced. There's a myriad of reasons why we need to support this project, as well as other expansions of SEPTA, so that we as a city are no longer choked by cars and the pollution they create. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Will the clerk please call the next person with public testimony?
Next, we have Jacob Pritchett.
Good afternoon, esteemed members of the committee. My name is Jacob Pritchett. As a Philadelphia resident without a car, my wife, my son, and I rely on SEPTA to navigate our city. The proposed Roosevelt Boulevard subway extension of the Broad Street subway just isn't another transit line. It's also a means to uplift our community. This subway will bridge the stark disparities in transit access across racial and socioeconomic lines, offering equitable transit for all Philadelphians. For people who frequently commute, the potential to nearly half journey times is life-changing. Safety will see substantial improvements with this initiative. Public transit is as much as 10 times safer than driving, and Roosevelt Boulevard is considered by many the most dangerous road in Philadelphia. Philadelphia's responsibility to the environment cannot be ignored. The subway champions greener transportation, reducing emissions and promoting better air quality. Additionally, it's more than infrastructure, it's an economic catalyst. The potential for transit-oriented growth means local businesses thrive and new jobs emerge. A 2003 study's findings are compelling. A potential of over 124,000 daily riders and a significant reduction in car trips. This subway means a more interconnected Philadelphia and a boost to our economy. As a Philadelphia resident dedicated to our city's progress, I passionately endorse the Roosevelt Boulevard subway. It's a move toward a stronger and more sustainable Philadelphia. I hope the committee grasps its transformative potential and lends its support. Thanks for hearing my perspective.
Thank you for your testimony. Will the clerk please call the next person with public testimony?
Next for public comment, we have Zach Howe.
Hi, thank you so much. My name is Zach Howe. I'm a resident of South Philadelphia. I've lived in the city for 7 years. I don't have a car. My car was totaled recently while parked on the street, and I'm trying out what it's like to live in the city without a car. So I take transit regularly, and I've never lived in the Northeast. And sitting on this call, hearing all this testimony about how great the Northeast is, I'm just like, wow, I want to go get some of that food, man. So I'm really excited about this. And I just want to say that a new subway that can serve all of these people and bring all of these people to the Northeast is also good for drivers. All of this talk about the congestion and stuff. Like, I don't think I think that people besides transit advocates can be sold on a project that is going to make driving for people who do choose or need to continue to drive safer and more enjoyable as well. And I also just want to say that as far as the cost goes, I'm not a transit advocate. I'm not a professional in this field in any way, but I do remember hearing that the proposed extension of the Norristown high-speed line to King of Prussia, I was really struck by numbers reading about that a few years ago, that it's going to cost $3 billion, projected, and serve 10,000 daily commuters, and that doesn't sound like such a great ratio to me. And I was quickly looking up the numbers for this project, and the projected daily ridership is 10 times that. And so if the cost is anywhere close to $3 billion, you know what I mean? Like, we were ready to do something like a big transit project like that to serve the suburbs. And I really think that it's not too much to ask for the city to turn its attention to serving the residents of the city in the same way. So thank you so much for the opportunity to testify and for everyone's continued work on this project. Have a great day.
Hey, thank you for your testimony. Will the clerk please call the next person to testify?
Next to speak, we have David Walker.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'd like to thank you all for listening to our comments, and especially my council representative, Mr. Khan. A lot of people have made very good cases for why we need rapid transit to the Northeast. I live in East Falls, but have had many friends in high school in the Northeast and had to find ways to visit them back in the 80s on transit. We got around, but it took a long time, as others have attested. The case for why we need the transit is good. I want to make a very specific, more technical case to why it should be a subway, either cut and cover or just trenched in. In the long run, while it would cost more to build, total compatibility with the Broad Street subway's existing equipment and right-of-way would allow trips all the way from the edge of the city down to the Stadium District. I'm not saying every day, but imagine just being able to do that as a one-trip stop and what that would do for our economy and for people on special occasions. What about running the extension that was designed to go up Henry Avenue and eventually creating a radial route around the outside so people could hop from the northeast to the northwest without traveling through Center City? While the costs are greater to do the subway as is being proposed, long-term, reduction of types of equipment, compatibility with most of the existing network. Boy, it would be a dream if we got the Market Street L off of the Pennsylvania gauge so we could run standard gauge cars on everything. As someone mentioned, multi-use high-density development along the route could be a boon to the city. A Broad Street style subway up and down Route 1 would also just increase the ability of people within the Northeast itself to move between the far Northeast and the near Northeast, providing job and entertainment opportunities. So for compatibility and future extensions, I would like to argue for using the Broad Street style subway equipment and standardization across the system. Thank you. I'll yield my time.
Thank you for your testimony. Will the clerk please call the next person to testify?
Next, we have Arta Sayedian.
Hello. Good afternoon. My name is Arta Sayedian. I live in West Philly, and I moved to Philly about a year and a half ago. Like one of the previous callers, I've never actually even been to Northeast Philly, but hearing the glowing things that I've heard everyone else say, it's really encouraging me and make me want to go. So while I might be a relatively recent transplant, I love this city, and I specifically chose Philadelphia to live in because of its history, its culture, and because, depending on who you are and where you live, you don't need a car to get around most parts. And it's one of the few cities in this country that are like this. And I am here to voice my absolute and unwavering support for the full completion of the Roosevelt Boulevard subway. I just want everyone to consider first the fact that the Roosevelt Boulevard subway was initially conceived in 1913. So that is 2 world wars, the start and collapse of the Soviet Union, and yet the need for this infrastructure has only intensified. Like many before me have said, the boulevard serves 500,000 Northeast Philadelphia residents, but there are no viable public transit options that don't rely on sharing the road with other vehicles. The urgency for the subway can't be overstated. It's not just about efficient transportation. It's also about saving the lives of pedestrians and commuters. The boulevard is one of the most dangerous traffic corridors in the country, and we have needlessly lost so many lives to traffic accidents and car-based infrastructure. And just so we are clear, when I talk about realizing the vision of the Roosevelt Boulevard subway, I am specifically advocating for a heavy rail alternative, fully electrified subway cars. We need a robust, dedicated transit solution that serves the residents of Philadelphia effectively and efficiently. We need a solution that has capacity and doesn't get clogged up in traffic. We want a heavy rail system that will truly address the needs of our community and unlock the potential of the Roosevelt Boulevard. In the brief time I've been here, I've come to appreciate the city. Like I said, the culture and the history. There's no other city in America I'd rather live in. And I believe that a faster, safer, and more efficient transit system, like the proposed subway, aligns with the vision of a progressive Philadelphia that caters to its residents, supports growth, and ensures safety. I would like to end on this. 100 years ago, mass transit was viewed as the way of the future. Today, let's honor the potential of this great city and insist on the heavy rail vision for the Roosevelt Boulevard subway. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Will the clerk please call the next person to testify?
Next, we have Cameron O'Grady.
Hi, everyone hear me?
Yes.
All right. Good afternoon, City Council. My name is Cameron O'Grady, and I'm here to ask for your support for a heavy rail subway through the Roosevelt Boulevard. For starters, I don't live in the Northeast. I actually live in Spruce Hill in West Philly, in the 27th Ward, but I use public transit every day. In fact, this statement I'm reading now and my thoughts that I composed them while riding on the 34 trolley from my home to my work in Jefferson Hospital. Now, just because I don't live in the Northeast doesn't mean I wouldn't use the subway. I have friends who live up in the Northeast, and it's a struggle to get to them without a car, just as it's a struggle for them to get to me. Building a heavy rail subway will expand opportunities to not only see those that I care about, but also further economic opportunities to the Northeast by providing cheap and fast access to the rest of SEPTA's heavy rail system. I also wanted to stress the importance of having this line be grade separated heavy rail. Grade separation will improve speed and reduce potential collisions when compared to light rail or bus rapid transit options. Potential collisions are especially important to consider as deaths from automobile crashes have climbed in the past few years, reversing the declining trend that we've seen for decades in this country, something that this city has personally experienced with numerous pedestrians and motorists killed while trying to cross or use the boulevard, not to mention those who are permanently disabled from accidents on the boulevard as well. The longer we wait to build, the more tragedies our city will have to reckon with, and so I urge the City Council to approve the resolution and to begin work on planning and exploring the potential of Roosevelt Boulevard subway. Thank you for proposing this resolution, and thank you so much for listening.
Thank you for your testimony. Will the clerk please call the next person to testify?
Next, we have John Duong.
Hi. Hi, good afternoon. My name is John DeWong, and I'm a lifelong resident of Philadelphia. And we often see, I'm calling about supporting the Roosevelt Boulevard subway. We often hear about Route 1 being a burden to our city, and having this proposal of the Roosevelt subway gives us a chance to flip it into becoming an asset for our city, building a heavy rail connection to connect the Northeast Philadelphia. And I urge heavy rail connection because it allows a one-seat ride to, especially for folks that struggle to get to the doctors, go to Temple or Nazareth on both ends of the line or and whatnot. And there's also other benefits that for building this subway. We such as we can allow our children, high school students, trades members, and college students be able to intern and work on a real project, such as on the engineering, planning, or even the commissioning of art. So this project is more than just about the subway is just more expensive. There's more than just upfront capital costs. There's impact that we have to look at, and I believe it's very positive for our city. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for your testimony. Will the clerk please call the next person to testify?
Next, we have John Walsh.
I believe the next one up is actually going to be Jackson Fox.
Jackson Fox.
Hello, my name is Jackson Fox. Thank you so much for letting me speak. I was born in Northeast Philly, and I lived just about my whole life here. I always grew up with the ache of isolation. Now in my adulthood, I'm learning that just me. It's just the way it's designed. If you ever want to know true isolation and fear, you can experience that by being a pedestrian on the Roosevelt Boulevard. As I learned growing up in Northeast Philly, if you are not fortunate enough to have the physical ability or finances needed to drive a car, you will constantly struggle to travel and meet your basic needs. This, of course, is a common issue in rural and suburban areas of our country, but in a densely populated major city, it is simply unexcusable to leave our citizens struggling. I spent some time briefly living in West Philly and Brooklyn, and I didn't feel that way at all. Both of those areas have more options for public transit and are way more walkable with much more green space instead of giant empty parking lots and deadly roads. And through constant interaction with other humans I shared spaces with, I found the healing and community I needed to grow as a person in ways I could never experience living in Northeast Philly. We deserve better. There is an undeniable divide between the Northeast and the rest of our beautiful and diverse city. The amount of time and energy it takes to travel to the rest of the city is flat out ridiculous for one of the country's most populated cities. Whether it be by car or by bus, you are still sitting in miles of traffic that takes countless lives regularly. It just isn't sensible when there are many better options that should be made available to us. The current state of Roosevelt Boulevard is a nightmare and unsustainable. We need to take the actions to bring a better quality of life to this underserved section in our city. And I do want to reiterate, I am in favor of the subway rather than light rail. I know earlier it was said that it looks, more cost efficient on paper, but in the long run, I think a robust subway is the only way to go because, as we know, cars will run into cars on the Roosevelt Boulevard, and of course, cars will be running into that trolley. So definitely a subway is the best option, even if the trolley has, its own corridor, it's still going to have to wait at lights, and people are still going to be making turns. So subway is definitely the way to go. Thank you so much for hearing my city.
You're welcome. Thank you. Will the clerk please call the next person to testify?
Next, we have Stephen Larkamp.
Good afternoon, all. I'm Stephen Larkamp, and while I'm speaking to you from a suburb in Delaware County, Media to name names, I've lived in the Philly area pretty much all my life, and I've made many a visit to the Northeast too for both business and pleasure. But every time I've had, especially lately, the boulevard has been nothing but agony for pretty much everyone, whether it's a local, a commuter, or a visitor. And ever since I learned that, as mentioned before, the boulevard was designed from the day it was built in the 1910s to have a subway line running along it, it makes me even more frustrated that the people that have moved into the region since, they have to suffer through eternal traffic jams and accidents on one of the most dangerous roads in the whole country, simply because there's no real alternative for them. And all that was made more obvious after I-95 collapsed into Coney. And to a lot of people there, that was an existential crisis for them, simply because they were trapped into getting anywhere up there by car, since the subway doesn't exist right now and the buses get stuck in the same traffic everyone else does. Having actual viable choice instead of just a car is actual freedom of mobility. And that's something we're starting to realize as a city and a nation, thankfully. And as such, for the people who live, work, or visit the Northeast, this subway line and not the inherently lesser half measures of a BRT or a light rail, which they cannot provide a satisfactory connection to the rest of the city, a heavy rail subway extension is an absolute necessity. And any cost that will be put towards it, it will be made back multiple times over, especially since rail projects in general have high returns on their investment, generally speaking. The Northeast will reap benefits from it, and so will the rest of the city. So, especially since you're not going to have to go back and fix the half measure that was building a light rail line. And I'm definitely happy to see the activism and the support I've witnessed today about this topic. And there's no doubt to me, the time is now for everyone involved to give the Roosevelt Boulevard subway the brotherly shove it needs to get started. You build the subway, it'll be the best thing to happen to the Northeast, maybe even the whole city. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you. Will the clerk please call the next person to testify?
Next, we have Simon Pantelidis.
Good afternoon, Simon Pantelidis. And good afternoon, and thank you to the chair and the committee and everyone. I live in Delaware County. I was born and raised in Upper Darby, but no doubt I still support the effort to bring the subway to the Roosevelt Boulevard. Often in our careers, I'll just summarize kind of a point that I think has been made. As we move into higher roles, becoming managers, leaders, or decision makers, we occasionally forget how fragile the start is for our younger adults. Part of that fragility includes just simply getting around and being able to get to the places where there are opportunities for people who may not be able to just drive just yet or may not have the means to do that. Now in my 30s, I no longer rely as intensely on there being a public transit option if I need to get to work, go shopping, visit friends, get to a doctor's appointment, or go out at night. But that is not the default for many people, as it was not for me when I was younger and just starting out. As a 19-year-old attending summer classes at a Penn State branch campus, having subway access allowed me to commute safely from Upper Darby to Abington. My morning commute then was to board the Market Frankford line at 69th Street Transportation Center, a free transfer to the Broad Street line at City Hall, and a final transfer to Bus 55 at the Olney Transportation Center. Access to those existing subways was instrumental to my education that year and ultimately to my later career. For these reasons, again, I support the effort to bring a subway to the Roosevelt Boulevard, give this entire city and its residents a lift. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Will the clerk please call the next person for public testimony?
Next, we have Jacob Buffard.
Hi, yes. Thank you, Council, for having me here today and letting me speak. I just wanted to ask for your support on a heavy subway investment for the Roosevelt Boulevard. And even though I do not live in the Northeast or know anyone that lives in the Northeast, I strongly support it as a Philadelphian and as a Pennsylvanian. While it would be an expensive investment, the returns would be uncalculable, I think, in terms not just of finance, but also the impact on people's lives, the culture of the city, and just the general well-being of this whole area would be improved. It would be a huge source of pride for not just the city, but also the state. It would be a good symbol and a good standard for the rest of the country even to go towards. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Will the clerk please call the next person to testify?
Next, we have Jeffrey Falkowski.
Yes. Hello.
Go ahead, Jeffrey.
Hello. My name is Jeffrey Falkowski. I'm a lifelong resident of Bridesburg section of Philadelphia, and I travel to the Northeast regularly by public transportation. And one of my concerns is that it takes me about an hour or more to go from Bridesburg to Somerton, which is probably one of the furthest points north in the city. There's a few options, but they all could take at least an hour or more just to go 13 miles. And I do like to travel along the boulevard for shopping and Somerton for recreation, things like that. So I believe building a faster way to get into the Northeast is really vital at this point to Philadelphia, not only its economy, but for its citizens, for jobs. It opens the city up. It opens up Center City to the citizens of the Northeast and vice versa. And I believe it's the way of the future. I mean, we're all at this point looking for alternatives instead of the old, our old cars that run off of fossil fuels. And we want alternatives, public transportation, electric, alternative fuels. So I believe an investment like this is necessary, but also extremely beneficial to everyone in the city and even the surrounding counties. So I hope that we can work on this project, and I thank you for listening to us and giving us a chance to speak, because I think that it's very important to get the citizens' opinions also, instead of just the leadership of the city. And I also believe that this is a much better investment than building a stadium down in Chinatown. So thank you all, and
thank you. Is any other comments? Anyone else here for public testimony? Any other questions or comments from members of the committee? Hearing none. Before we conclude, I would like to have the sponsor of the resolution ask him if he has any last remarks. Councilman Driscoll.
Well, Chairman, thank you. I thought we had a robust conversation today, and thanks to your leadership and your committee, we look forward to advancing this dialogue. We look forward to SEPTA has a study in process that should be done by December or January. I think that's going to be a critical element here, and I think we have to have ongoing discussions with the Secretary of Transportation and the Turnpike Commission, because if we explore the notion of the high-speed rail in the center lanes of the boulevard with perhaps a tolled highway along with it, that could be our local match. So I want to have those conversations. So yeah, I think today was a great participation by all, and thank you to all the testifiers, and thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And thank you for your leadership in this very, very critically important issue, especially when we talk about transit equity. And so I just want to thank you, and this was a very, very inspiring, empowering hearing. With that being said, I want to thank all of the members who took time out of their schedule to also participate in this hearing. And if there are no more comments from members of the panel or members from the public, this concludes the hearing on transportation and public utilities. Thank you very much, everyone. And also thank Brett for your work clerking this hearing.
Of course, Mr. Chair. Thank you.